Well, maybe we should start every show out by singing. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like pick a song, and then just start singing away. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that would drive away. We had a thumbs down yesterday on our video.
Well, that's
I was
fair.
like, huh,
You have to be able to take
okay.
constructive criticism, you know?
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. You'll be all right. Okay, it is part 2 of the Week 11 preview here on the Audible. Cecil, Lammey, and Sigmund Bloom with New England and Houston as our first game we're going to talk about. And on the New England side, anyone that picked up Jacoby Myers, you're like, did I just get the James Robinson of wide receivers?
Yeah.
Okay, Cam Newton seems to be having fun again, Bloom. He should have a lot of fun against this Texans defense. I'm using air quotes there. And then the ground game, got a lot of questions last night about Damian Harris. And even one guy who I did this big long answer about Damian Harris, he's like, oh, I meant Deontay Johnson. It's like, oh my God.
Damian, Deontay.
Completely forget everything I just told you then. But anyway, so now fantasy jams are like, is it Damian? Is it Rex? Where's James White? Okay, against Houston, maybe it might be all of them.
This is that rousing montage start for the Patriots, right? Beating the Ravens in the rain. They're 2 games out of the edge of the playoff picture right now. But you look at New England's schedule and, well, Arizona, Chargers, Rams, Miami, Buffalo, Jets. So it's New England, you know. You give them a puncher's chance. Obviously, they got to take care of business here. This is a team that they have owned. Bill Belichick has owned the Texans, except for last year. Last year, as we saw the Death Star starting to crack at the edges, the Texans actually beat the Patriots. But the Patriots are coming in, obviously, with a lot more purpose and playing a lot better here. You have to like the running game. And the Texans are going to continue to be a team that we target, especially with the running backs. Remember, they gave up 2 100-yard games last week. By the way, Patriots 10-2 all time against the Texans. So you love this for Damian Harris, Rex Burkhead, the perpetual what the heck flex. James White, as you mentioned, Cease, on the outside looking in. And the passing game discussion's very quick. It's Jacoby Myers. But Jacoby Myers in the rain still was like 5 for 59 last week in a low volume pass offense. And he threw a touchdown. So he actually made himself a solid wide receiver too. But against Houston and their corners, he could be a lot more than that. If he needs to be, it might just be the running game and Damian Harris who takes care of this. It's really up to Cecil. If we're talking about Cam Newton and Jacoby Myers as plays, it's really how well do you think Deshaun Watson can perform against this Patriots defense? What the heck, Rex? Exactly.
What the heck, Rex? Good job, Anthony. Yeah, Deshaun Watson, how well will he do with Duke Johnson with an illness? Not COVID related, we don't think, Bloom. I don't think that's been revealed yet today. Just an illness yesterday and missed practice.
Yeah.
So, okay, so now he gets his opportunity. He gets a tummy ache. Flush it out, buddy, and get out there and get to performing. And, of course, fantasy jams are like, everybody else in that Texans passing game, you do it too. Get out there and help your man, Deshaun Watson. So you ask the question, I'll ask it basically right back to you, Bloom. How do they perform this week against the Patriots?
Deshaun Watson's on automatic play, and I can certainly see having Deshaun Watson on the bench for some players that were drafted behind him. You know, certainly we're watching Stephon Gilmore. Is Stephon Gilmore going to play? And whether Stephon Gilmore plays or not, Will Fuller, I think, if you're going to say Cooks versus Fuller, I think it's more of a Cooks week than a Fuller week. I would imagine the Patriots aren't going to let Deshaun Watson get comfortable, and that's really where the plan, because again, going back to Cam Newton as a Patriot, it sets them up for the game plan of grinding out 6-7 minute drives, shortening the game, and not giving Deshaun Watson as many chances to hurt you in the passing game. A lot more short passing, I think. Cooks, maybe some Cobb. Again, the tight end splitting things up. You mentioned about Duke Johnson and illness, and it has already happened once this year, at least once this year, that a player was listed as an illness and then later test positive for COVID. So it's something to think about. CJ Rice, I guess, would be the next man up, a true desperation play. He has the goods physically, just can't stay healthy. That New England run defense really recovered against Baltimore anyway. Baltimore has a good running game in the slop and mud. They were not mudders. And watch Kyle Duggar. Gave him a little tribute on the IDP show last night. Love this guy. Love the way he plays. Again, there's a play Brad Kelly, good follow for wide receiver stuff, especially just football, showed where he was the backside boot responsibility, and he was fast enough to close on an outside zone run and crush the runner. He's going to be fun, and this Patriots defense is going to be fun. And like you said, Cam Newton's having fun. We'll see if Houston can have a little bit of fun this year and make this a game.
And look how fortunate we are, Bloom, to have some of those young secondary play like a Jeremy Chin. Like you've got some guys out there that
Grant Delpit hasn't played yet. Xavier McKinney hasn't played yet.
Right. So we're pretty blessed to have this inflection of young talent. You know, the only thing I remember about CJ Procise, Bloom? One time during Mutt, I think it was 2016, they actually had a 99 CJ Procise. And wow. I busted a pack and I got him. I was like, well, hell, it's CJ Procise, but it's 99, so I'm going to use him. And if you have no idea what I'm talking about, it was in Madden. So, oh my God, that year I spent probably like $500 on Mutt cards. And I was like, this is stupid. You pay $60 for a video game and then you pay $500 for imaginary football cards.
That's the business. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's microtransactions. Anyway, it's almost like when you watch YouTube shows, they're like, send us a super chat. Anyway, let's get down how you get down, baby. Let's talk about, I suppose I have to talk about the Broncos, Miami Dolphins, and Denver Broncos. Here we go, everybody. It's the big show. It is a Broncos show, and it's a Dolphins side first, which means they're going to run the hell out of the ball. Why would anyone, try to fill the air with footballs against the Broncos? Not because their pass defense is great, but because their run defense sucks. And take a page out of what the Chargers did. I know they didn't win, but they ran for 200 yards with guys like Tremaine Pope leading the way. The Raiders ran for over 200 yards with Josh Jacobs getting 2 scores, Devontae Booker getting 2 scores. So Salvon Ahmed, do we know if it's Ahmed or Ahmed? I've heard both.
I've heard Ahmed.
Ahmed. I like Ahmed better. Salvon Ahmed. I mean, he's going to go nuts. He should anyway in this game against the Denver Broncos. Devontae Parker will have his, maybe it's a low floor type of 5 for 59, one of those type of games. Jakeem Grant could shake free for a touchdown. Depends on where Bryce Callahan's at and just, his health status. But this Broncos secondary is almost as bad as the run defense. They just don't get tested as much. So, okay, Tua Tagovailoa, what does he continue to do for this team that is hot and responding to their head coach?
He'll play well, but this is going to be a fun team to watch. If we're not rooting for the Steelers in the AFC playoff bracket, Miami is a fun story.
Oh yeah.
See what this team can do, Brian Flores. It's not going to be fun for fantasy football, except for maybe Ahmed. Matt Breida should return this week. It takes a little edge off of Ahmed's upside, but they scored 4 touchdowns on the ground. Raiders, like you said, over 200 yards. So There's there.
Plenty.
And they should be able to control the game because what you see is, all things being equal, they just want to have a safe game plan on offense, keep the pass attempts low, run the ball, and come out with an easy win. And it's hard to project anything but that in this one. So I know Chill Will was asking in the chat room, Devontae Parker set it and forget it. No. It's the targets aren't there. Jakeem Grant might be a better play than Devontae Parker, but that doesn't mean Jakeem Grant is a good play. Durham Smythe and Adam Shaheen getting targets, that means Mike Gesicki is not as good of a play. And that's just where we're at. The success for the Dolphins, it means a lack of success for fantasy. And interestingly enough, Drew Lock's lack of success a couple of times this year has equaled success, but will he even play in this one?
Yeah, well, I forgot to mention one very important Dolphin, Bloom. Very, very important. The highest scoring Dolphins asset this week might be the defense.
Right. Yes.
So everybody start the Dolphins defense because Drew Lock's our starter if he's healthy, but he's hurt. Guess who didn't practice yesterday? Drew Lock.
Yeah.
Now, oh boy, here we go, Bloom. I can't tell you who went first. I can't say that. I will get in trouble if I say something like Brett Rippon was the first quarterback with the team or Jeff Driscoll was the first quarterback. We can't say those type of things. This is a new rule for the Broncos. So I can't say Brett Rippon was the first guy out there and then Jeff Driscoll and then Blake Bortles. I can't say that. So we're left to wonder.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I saw it. I can't say it, but okay, it's probably Brett Rippon unless Drew Lock makes a miraculous comeback. Everybody watch. Full disclosure, I don't go to practice on Thursdays. I'm not allowed. I go on Fridays and Wednesdays. So, okay, Friday's the big day for Drew Lock, but doesn't matter. The offense would look better with Brett Rippon. Honestly, it would. Now, Rippon would still throw the picks because he's got a weak arm, and he throws picks for different reasons than Lock, but he reads the field. I warned Broncos fans this way, Bloom. It is a Broncos show, so forgive me. But I warned Broncos fans this way. I said, don't be surprised if Brett Rippon plays and it looks better than it looks with Drew Lock because he'll run the full offense. Now, his noodle arm won't get the passes there, and he'll float some across the field that'll get picked off. So he'll look bad for different reasons from Lock, but at least he'll run the offense. Who the hell knows at running back? Who the hell knows about this entire team? Other than I think KJ Hamler is on the verge of a breakout. Take that as a lassie bark if you want. But, okay, Hamler, Judy are both what the heck flexes.
Yeah.
That I don't trust. I don't know. I mean, truly what the heck flexes. So it's bad when you look at the Broncos roster and I don't want to start anybody.
No, you don't want to. As you said, if it's Rippon, though, at least the offense will be crisper. Like you said, we're staying away from the backfield. We're looking at those wide receivers. Hamler and Judy is what the heck flexes. There is some upside there. With Hamler more than Judy because Hamler, you won't have to face those outside corners. You won't be throwing it. This is why you start the Miami defense, right? Because Brett Rippon or Drew Lock will probably still throw Xavier Howard and Byron Jones. And I guess, Cecil, I'll wrap this up by saying, I wonder what the Cecil rant is going to be about this week.
Yeah. Let's move on past that and get to the Jets.
Okay. Uplifting.
Hey, there we go. Very uplifting. But, dude, here's the thing. I trust my Jets assets more than I do my Broncos assets. Right? And Joe Flacco's in.
It's because the starting quarterback week 1 last year.
It's because of Joe Flacco. So it's okay, they say more like Michael P. Ryan. I don't necessarily trust that. And Frank Gore's there, hard charging. But with Joe Flacco now as the quarterback, as long as he's healthy, he's the quarterback. So, okay, Brashad Perriman, oh my God, Wednesday. Yeah, it's Brashad Perriman. Just watch Friday. But Perriman, getting louder with Crowder. Denzel Mims can do some things. There's actually... It's more exciting to consider your Jets receivers than it is your Broncos receivers. And that's because of Joe Flacco.
And we're talking defenses too, the Chargers defense. We were trying to target the Jets. Let's see if Joey Bosa's back. But you would expect Flacco. Remember, we watched him against the Patriots without Stephon Gilmore, but still, he had a lot of success, almost enough to beat the Patriots and effectively end their season. But here we are. You let him off the hook. You like Brashad Perriman the best out of these three, assuming he's going to play. That chemistry, also Flacco's deep ball, then probably Crowder, then Mims. But Mims is a what the heck flex on the same level as a Judy or a Hamler this week with the rookie talent and probably an offense that's playing more wide open. As you said with Michael P. Ryan, it's an audition week, I think. Maybe we're not going to start him against the Chargers, but maybe we will also, they were opening up some pretty big holes. Miami was against the Chargers last week for Ahmed. So maybe P. Ryan surprises a true what the heck flex. And then the background here is, are they going to win a game? They almost won a game. And even if they don't win any games, all this is setting up, if they want to, the ownership to say, see, if Adam Gase just has better injury luck, and look at how the offense looks now. And I mean, if they want to, hopefully they don't want to for Jets fans out there. But that's what we're setting up here as who would be the team, the Jags, sitting there with the popcorn with one win.
Yep.
As Trevor Lawrence waits to see which team is he going to refuse to play for.
Right. Which team is going to demand a trade from? And hey, if I'm Trevor, I'd do it. Hey, Eli did it. Elway did it.
Yep.
Hey, Trevor Lawrence, man. Do that. Just do that. Is the guy to save Anthony Lynn's job Kalen Ballage? Maybe. And I feel bad for Anthony Lynn because I can't say that I'm best friends with him, but I know him a little bit, and he's a good man. He's a really good man. And he's one of those guys that players rally around. You want guys like that to have success, Bloom. We like it in life when good people have success. And so often the bad people have success. But anyway, Anthony Lynn is already said that Kalen Ballage will have a major role. Okay, so you got him, you picked him up, you threw him in. Now you feel better about going with Kalen Ballage. Watch the wheels fall off this week. But anyway,
right.
So we're looking at Herbert and all those assets. We already know Hunter Henry, we already know Keenan Allen and Mike Williams and all that. How do they try to get it done this week against the Jets?
Yeah, Herbert still staying in our lineup. We're waiting to see if the wheels come off here, but it hasn't yet, even as the offense was having trouble against the Dolphins last week. Herbert had a good game. You got the barrage of Ballage, and the Jets' front line is generally tough to move against the run, but if you can get past the front line, there are big plays there. So that's where that speed comes into play. And I suppose Ballage stands for us as an example that players can evolve, because it's like, keep this in mind before you trade Jonathan Taylor in your dynasty league,
And I would say this, Bloom, it's more to me about fit.
Yeah.
Because Ballage, even though Gase loved him, he didn't really work to what he could do. So I don't know how much Ballage has changed or upgraded his game. I think he's just found the right fit. And so when we could look back through history of all the guys that didn't make it and then point to say, well, maybe if he had the right fit, that would have happened.
And whether it's the scheme and the Chargers wanting to run more power, or just the game slowing down for Ballage a little bit, he's absolutely what the heck flex here. The Chargers have chances to score. Obviously, it's Keenan Allen week, and maybe it's a Mike Williams week. Certainly, you're more inclined to play Mike Williams against a bad defensive backfield like the Jets than you are against others. Remember last week it was Xavier Howard and company. And by the way, Pierre Desir was sent to the door. We were loving picking on him for fantasy, also in IDP leagues. Hunter Henry finally got a touchdown last week. Probably can't do much better than Hunter Henry unless you have someone you've been starting over him. Anyway, and Cecil, you really cut right to the chase here, because I think what's happening is, in some ways, the Chargers as a franchise are in an enviable position, because they're going to have a high pick, even though they've got their quarterback of the future and they've got a lot of pieces. However, how much is the reason they have a high pick Anthony Lynn? And is Anthony Lynn a coach that, while he gets everyone on the same page and maybe spiritually, emotionally, psychologically, he's a good leader for this team, when it comes right down to it, the kind of quality you need as a head coach to win games, he just doesn't have. Just his instincts to go into a shell are, in this 2020 NFL, a recipe for losing, no matter how good your quarterback is, no matter how many breaks you get. And I think that's what the Chargers are thinking about. And I think you did a great job bringing that up as the overarching story. And I suppose if they win these games they're supposed to win, like this game against the Jets, that helps the idea that, hey, now you have a quarterback, let Lynn's program really take hold. So we'll see. But if they can't beat the Jets, then that's certainly an argument to say, he's going to be an impediment to success instead of the reason for the success.
I also think it's how they beat the Jets.
Yeah.
Like, if you clown hammer them like you should, you go, okay. And if you barely win, you're like, what's wrong?
Right.
Okay, what's wrong? Let's move on. We're so chatty this morning. Green Bay and the Colts. There's a game to get chatty about, Bloom. Because on the Green Bay side, fantasy gym, of course, Devontae Adams, Aaron Rodgers, Aaron Jones, blah, 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 blah. But fantasy gyms are like, well, Alan Lazard could be back. What's that do to Marquez Valdez-Scantling? You and I back and forth on the waiver wire show. So let's toss it around again. This time against the Colts. Hell, Rodgers, because he could use everybody this week. This is a good matchup.
It's a great matchup. And let us say our praises again. If we're just looking at the A games, including the primetime games, so you can have an experience this week of watching Seattle and Arizona, Tennessee and Baltimore, Green Bay and Indianapolis, Kansas City and the Raiders, Rams and Bucks. Those are all playoff quality matchups. Maybe 10 playoff teams. And intense football, as we're now getting into like the witching hour, like they say on Red Zone. It's the witching hour in the NFL season. This is a main event game. Aaron Rodgers. So, is Indy's defense good? Is it a shutdown defense? I mean, if you watch them against weaker offenses, you say yes. If you watch them against some strong offenses, you say no. They did a pretty good job slowing down Baltimore. But, this is a defense that certainly has vulnerabilities. You have to think it's going to be there for Devontae Adams, and you have to think it's going to be there for Marcus Valdes-Scantling. Listening to what the Packers are saying about Alan Lazard, he's going to come along slowly. He's going to be eased back in. So if you're looking at Lazard, go to check the checkbox beside, Valdes-Scantling, because I think Lazard is maybe sprinkled in, if he's even active this week. And certainly, I think you shouldn't be afraid of playing Aaron Rodgers or Aaron Jones. And again, is this a good run defense? Depending on the results, the teams. Derrick Henry didn't have any problem running on them last week. Aaron Jones isn't Derrick Henry. And we're going to see some Jamal Williams, so that lowers the margin of error on playing Aaron Jones. But, obviously you're playing Aaron Jones. Maybe it's more of a DFS question. Even someone like Robert Tonyan, because this could be a game where Aaron Rodgers really exposes the Indianapolis defense instead of the Indianapolis defense dictating things to Green Bay. And I think, Cecil, we have a similar tension on the other side of things, because there's a clear weakness in Green Bay's defense. But can the Colts take advantage?
Yeah, will rational coaching take over? And if I'm Green Bay, Bloom, honestly, I just try to boat race these guys, because they're not going to. You can't play catch up. You can't play catch up. No. Now, if you're Indianapolis, you're just going to try to control the clock.
Yeah,
and you can do that with running the ball. So here comes Jonathan Taylor. Rational coaching assumed Jonathan Taylor and Nyheim Hines, you have monster games, right? And limit what Phillip Rivers does through the air. But will that happen? And, if Green Bay does get up, well, the Colts may not be able to fight back. This one, very interesting to preview and to think about, well, are they going to do what they should do? Because if they do, there could be some fantasy goodness.
Yeah, there's such a wide range of outcomes, right? Because we have seen Green Bay shrink from physical teams.
Right.
Can Indianapolis establish that? And like you said, it's with the run. So where are the plays on the Indianapolis side? Michael Pittman is warm as a wide receiver 3 flex play. Certainly, you like the way that he matched up with the throws that Phillip Rivers can make reliably at this point in his career. Tight ends, if Jack Doyle's still out, a desperation play for Mo Alley Cox for Trey Burton. But it's the backfield. Jonathan Taylor. If there was a week for Jonathan Taylor for the light bulb to go on, if there was a week, it's all about confidence, right? And this stuff can swing and do a 180 in one game. If there is a week for Jonathan Taylor to spread his wings, this is the week. It's the Packers' run defense. If there is a week for Frank Reich and company to say, let's give him another chance. And in giving him another chance in that sense, Cease, that if the first 10 carries are for 9 yards and he runs into the back of his blockers, and you can go on the sideline and show him, like, no, you just need to slow your braid down a little bit. Like, just let it, watch like how someone like Alfred Morris at this stage in his career runs. Like process information visually in front of you, and then use your talent. Jonathan Taylor could have a breakout game in this one. Or it's Nyheim Hines. And I'm going to tell people to break ties in favor of Nyheim Hines this week and hope for rational coaching. Because if they are impatient with Jonathan Taylor, I hope that they're impatient with Jordan Wilkins. Jordan Wilkins had a terrible, terrible performance last week. I would not trust him in any high leverage situation right now. You can trust Nyheim Hines, but trusting him for fantasy, sees people like a tick. Like, every time he does this, the next week he does nothing. But the difference is in the previous games, Hines wasn't as successful as a runner as he was last Thursday night. And as Matt Waldman pointed out, it may be that Hines is hitting the hole faster and he's meshing better. So let's pray for rational coaching, or let's pray for Jonathan Taylor to take a deep breath and play the way he's capable of. Or as you said, Cease, this could be a game that is like a 35-13 in either direction. And we watch the first quarter and see what the trends are. But what the great thing is, as we talk about the Jets, the Broncos, and who else do we have to talk about here? Oh, the Cowboys. You get to give a lot of attention to this game.
Yes, you do. You get to focus a lot. And, here you go, Bloom. Cowboys and Minnesota. Is Andy Dalton going to be back? We're recording on Thursday morning. He's been activated. Everybody expects him to play. So we should proceed as if Andy Dalton is back. Well, what does that mean for this team? Ezekiel Elliott, by the way, full participant. The hamstring's not an issue. Because I've heard plenty of people like, well, Zeke's got the hamstring. Well, yeah, but he's a full participant on Wednesday. That's a really good sign. So whatever is whatever. But let's talk about the Cowboys with Dalton back and against Minnesota. Well, I mean, you could fire up your Cowboys receivers again if you wanted to. This would be the week to do it.
This used to be like epic battles in the NFC back in the 70s. Wasn't one of the original Hail Marys? Was it Preston Pearson? Am I remembering that correctly, Cease? I don't know. I was probably like 1 year old when that happened. Dallas is still a contender. Still a contender. Andy Dalton's probably going to be back. You're going to play Ezekiel Elliott. Like you said, he's going to play. Will we see more of Tony Pollard? Pollard has a little bit of value as that injury upside. Has a lot of value if they use him correctly. And maybe this is your assignment, Kellen Moore, in the bye week. Rein it in a little bit. Don't leave. It's like boxing. Like, don't leave a lot of windows where you can take counter punches or take one on the chin, because you have players like CeeDee Lamb that can get open in the short and intermediate routes. You have Tony Pollard that can create mismatches in the passing game and otherwise be a true change of pace. Minnesota secondary is okay. They have Harrison Smith. Don't get me wrong, Anthony Harris, but the cornerbacks should be beatable when you have CeeDee Lamb and Amari Cooper and Michael Gallup. I'm still not going to play Michael Gallup. Michael Gallup is exactly in that sabotage drop zone where even if he has a good game, are you going to luckily hit it in your lineup? He's probably just going to clog up a roster spot. Now, CeeDee Lamb, because of his strengths, is a little more enticing. And Amari Cooper, it just takes one play. And we know that Andy Dalton will try those plays. So I think you still are sticking with Amari Cooper, but this is still fact findings. Similarly with Dalton Schultz, I guess the harder you think it's going to be for Andy Dalton, the more you like Dalton Schultz in this one. The Dalton connection, we'll see. They've had 2 weeks to prepare for this game. What can you do against a Minnesota team that is also trying to say we're still alive? At the very least, they're still alive to give this team hope to bridge to the next era of the Mike Zimmer, Rick Spielman Vikings, and showing that they're better than the Cowboys is a good reason to keep going in that direction. They were better than the Bears Monday night. Can they be better than the Cowboys this week?
Do not underestimate the battle within the battle that is Zeke versus Dalvin. Because that's like, oh, everybody's talking about you now. Well, what about wait till they get a load of me again? And then Dalvin Cook is I'm the hottest guy in the league. I'm just going to run you over a weak defense where they should be able to do whatever they want to do. So, how much do they do with the passing game? We know Cook's good to go. Do you have Madison as a what the heck flex? Potentially. We'll talk about that at the end of this show. Adam Thielen, Justin Jefferson, and then Kyle Rudolph if you're desperate at tight end. That's it for Minnesota. Yep. That's how they operate.
Yeah, and you'd expect Kirk Cousins to be highly efficient against this defense. By the way, K1 always coming through in the chat room. It's Drew Pearson, not Preston Pearson. Mixed up my Pearsons. Go back and look up the play, folks. It's a great one. I think it might have been the play that the term Hail Mary was coined for those kind of plays. I don't quote me on. I'm only 98% sure of anything at this age of 45. Okay. You can't bench Justin Jefferson. I'm not even sure you can bench Adam Thielen. Remember, he had 2 touchdowns last week. Thielen, his game was looking a little rough around the edges, like slight decline phase starting. But against this secondary, with Kirk Cousins, efficient when he's not under a lot of pressure, efficient whenever the plays are run as they're drawn up, using that strong running game to leverage the play action passing. You would expect there to be some success there. Irv Smith did practice this Wednesday, I think, or Thursday. Maybe it was today. So Kyle Rudolph and that short, what the heck, tight end window closing. Remember he had that fumble. And then Dalvin Cook. And, okay, the Bears did bottle him up. The Bears were equal to the test of containing him. And just as an aside, just to see if your trade deadline is not passed yet, Minnesota in the playoffs gets Tampa and then Chicago again and then New Orleans. So how much do you trust Dalvin Cook? How much do you trust matchups? Because that's about the toughest set of 3 matchups, especially because we just saw the Bears contain him. Of course, that could easily turn into long runs. It should turn into long runs this week. Wow, this is a Dalvin Cook week. I would be very afraid of creating a DFS lineup without Dalvin Cook this week. Just no more injury scares, please. Put
Please.
a cup, a athletic supporter, if you will. We're all athletic supporters, aren't we?
That's very, very true. The athletic supporting continues with Sunday night, Kansas City and Vegas. This one's in Vegas. World champs going to Vegas. Okay, world champs. We already know, Bloom, who they are because you're excited to start them all. So is it as simple as, well, start your Chiefs, dummy? Of course, against a Raiders defense that, okay, whatever, you can look good against Denver. You don't have much of a chance of stopping anything the Chiefs want to do.
There's a scheduling quirk here, Cecil. I want to say this is the third time in recent years that Andy Reid has gotten a bye week before he faced the Raiders. And I want to say the other times they've scored at least 40 points. Don't quote me on this. Again, 98% sure. This is more like 93% sure. But the point is, yes, I think you led into this perfectly. Patrick Mahomes. It's Patrick Mahomes week. It is absolutely a Hill and Kelsey week. Is it Sammy Watkins? He's back. McCole Hardman's still on the COVID list.
Isn't that disappointing? Like, Sammy Watkins is back.
And even rather it focus on Demarcus Robinson or Byron Pringle, than Sammy Watkins. Because I'm not trusting Sammy Watkins, but I'm also not trusting other secondary supporting parts of the cast here. The big question here is Clyde Edwards-Helaire. And what we have is a Chiefs team that earlier in the year when teams were daring them to run, they ran. And Edwards-Helaire was gobbling up 7-8 yards a carry. Now we're seeing no interest in the run going into the bye. So I'm not going to say, where it gets tough, Cease, is if you're weighing like Mike Davis against Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Salvin Ahmed against Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Kalen Ballage against Clyde Edwards, Giovanni Bernard, these running backs that maybe they have a modest ceiling, but they're going to get work because we haven't had that game yet from Clyde Edwards-Helaire that gives us that FOMO, the fear of missing out on a 3-touchdown game. Maybe that's it. Maybe that's one of the things they focus on. Maybe they, after the bye, have a better way to integrate Le'Veon Bell. So too many questions here, although because it's a high-scoring game, that might make me more inclined to, when you're close, break those ties in favor of Clyde Edwards-Helaire. And we'll see what the Raiders have. Again, I want to focus. This is an epic matchup because Kansas City lost at home to the Raiders and lost somewhat decisively. Lost in a way, Cease, that I think we can go back and watch that Raiders-Chiefs game and say what the Raiders thought was going to work, worked. The Raiders coaches accurately identified flaws in the Chiefs defense and made them look like a weak defense. Now, second time around, it's kind of a halftime adjustments plus, it's in between games adjustments. And this AFC playoff picture, I want to put it out there for folks. Right now, as we speak, if the playoff started today, the Titans and Browns will be on the outside looking in. If the Raiders don't win this game, then maybe the Raiders on the outside looking in next week. So important contests here. And in fact, if the Raiders can win, they'll move within a game of first place. So what does John Gruden have in mind? And can they stop the spread of COVID among their team?
Yes, that's also quite important. I'll tell you what else is important, Bloom. Will they use Henry Ruggs? Because they did against the Chiefs, and then they haven't since. Well, now it's the Chiefs again, so use them again. Okay, Henry Ruggs, Aguilar out there. Of course, everyone's starting Darren Waller. You're starting Josh Jacobs. In this one, again, to me, the biggest mystery is, are they going to use Ruggs again for one of those big, deep touchdowns? And Derek Carr having the ability and being allowed the ability to just take off and run. Remember, this team wanted to replace him for like 2 years. And you bring in Mariota, like, what's that about? Like, okay, but Derek Carr has responded. How does he respond? Could they sweep the Chiefs? That's what the Raiders. Where's our man Jason? He's probably ripping bong loads and eating some ho-hos from his Greeley store. So, let's see if the Raiders can sweep the Chiefs, huh?
Oh, yeah. And I think it's still going to come down to establishing the run because you want to shorten the game. You want to put the Chiefs on their heels against the run because you would expect them to overplay the deep pass after they got burned multiple times in the first matchup. Not that that makes you go away from Henry Ruggs, but I think the Chiefs probably come out playing the deep pass, keep it in front of you. Josh Jacobs, Devontae Booker help them grind out long drives. Then the Chiefs have to tighten things up. Then you take those shots. What do they have up their sleeve? Because again, this was a game where it seemed like they could really anticipate what the Chiefs defense were going to do. So you err on the side of playing Derek Carr. You err on the side of playing Henry Ruggs, especially if in those leagues you get the long touchdown bonuses. Darren Waller could have had a long touchdown last week. Obviously still going to play Darren Waller. This could be a massive Darren Waller game. If you think that the Chiefs are going to get out to a lead in this game, and the Raiders are going to have to play catch up, kind of like what happened in the Buccaneers game when the Bucs came out to the Roomba. Then it's Darren Waller can have like 12 catches in this game. Darren Waller could be a massive play. And then you also have Brian Edwards back, Nelson Aguilar, Hunter Renfrow. The pieces are there. The pieces are there of the back and forth AFL shootout. I think the first time was 40-32. The pieces are there for this one. I don't think the Raiders want to necessarily get into another game like that. I think they want it to come down to Jacobs, who's running really well, and Booker, who's running really well. But we could see this ebb and flow, Cease. We could see the Raiders jump out to a lead at home. Then we could see, just like the Texans-Chiefs game in the playoffs, Mahomes, in a 10-minute span of clock time, score 24 or 28 points. Then we have to see the Raiders open things up. It's a popcorn game, and probably one I would say is more likely to make up gaps in fantasy matchups and make you happy if these are the players that you were waiting on.
So many playoff previews, and Monday Night Football is no different. L.A. Rams, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Bloom, I even had a Goff and Brady question last night. I was like, well, which front seven is going to be more successful against that quarterback and pressuring him? We're going to start on the Rams side, and that means, okay, Jared Goff handling pressure. How are you going to do that? Cooper Kupp, Robert Woods, more Josh Reynolds. Is that in order here? Because you can attack the Buccaneers secondary, to be sure. The tight end by committee is frustrating, and so is the running back by committee. So frustration abounds if you have Rams assets, Bloom, almost every week.
And unlike the AFC playoff picture, the NFC playoff picture is pretty clear-cut at this point, right? You're going to have a team from the NFC East. You're going to have Green Bay. You're going to have New Orleans and Tampa, probably. And you're going to have the three teams, now that San Francisco's falling by the wayside. But you're still jockeying for position here. And both the Rams and the Bucs find themselves in situations where the razor-thin margin between the number one seed or having to travel. Well, then again, if you're the number 5 seed, you're traveling. It's like from the NFC, so it's not so bad. Someone said on my Twitter this morning, so the number 1 and number 5 seeds get buys in the NFC bracket. This is a big one though, and this is a good one for contrasting styles, contrasting ways of winning games. See, where is that picture of the guy behind the tree looking and like rubbing his hands together, like yeah, got it? There you go. Yeah, that's Todd Bowles, man. That's Todd Bowles this week, right? Right?
Yes.
Because we saw Miami show the blueprint. Dare Jared Goff to beat you. Make him have to think quickly and maybe not follow. That's whenever Devin White is blitzing. Yeah. So we can look at this as Goff versus Bowles, McVay versus Bowles, but I think that when you force Jared Goff to get out of that preset structure progression of the play with pressure, it all falls apart. Now, that doesn't mean that Jared Goff's a bad fantasy play this week, because we saw in the Miami game, because they've gotten a hole, that he still racked up some yards. I think this is going to be a really fun strategic game. And I here's what I haven't seen yet from Sean McVay, is anticipating what his opponent is going to do so that he has the counter preloaded, right? I don't know what that is this week. I think that maybe it's a lot of Malcolm Brown staying in for blitz pickup, and a lot. Why are you going to run Cam Akers and Darrell Henderson anyway against the Tampa run defense?
Right.
You're throwing plays away if you do that. Could it be a big Malcolm Brown week, at least in terms of snaps? Now, we'll translate to catches and touchdowns and things like that. That depends on how creative Sean McVay is in understanding that the book is out there on your quarterback, man. If you can, like Bill Belichick showed the world the first time, if you cut that mind meld, cut the cord, right? The umbilical cord. If you cut that umbilical cord, then Jared Goff is helpless as a baby, and Todd Bowles is going to do that. the other thing we're watching here is Josh Reynolds, who was the number one receiver for this team, both I think in his execution and his statistics last week. Cooper Kupp maybe still a little banged up. So I'm not really sure who, Carlton Davis actually against Josh Reynolds is probably a pretty good matchup here. But the Bucks, like the Steelers, if the pass rush doesn't get home, there can be big plays available, and probably it's a high volume game for Jared Goff. So you're going to err on the side of playing Kupp and Woods, but also maybe Josh Reynolds in this one. Also, if you have to throw a Hail Mary at tight end, a what the heck tight end, Higbee and or Gerald Everett. And isn't that a way, again, what you really wish if you were the Rams, Cease, is you had a player like a Tariq Cohen, like a Nyheim Hines. That's the kind of player that they lack in their offense that they need. They need some speed. They need to be able to attack the edges. They want to go head on. They also don't want to take chances on pass plays that take a long time to develop. So maybe that's Gerald Everett. Maybe that's Tyler Higbee. Such a fascinating matchup when the Rams have the ball, but also when Tampa has the ball.
When Tampa has the ball, Aaron Donald's going to say this. It's go time. Then we get in Tommy Brady's grill, and that Tampa offensive line has got Brady thinking about retirement. Well, it's not really. It has him thinking about yelling at his teammates.
Yeah.
So, okay, Chris Godwin and the finger, okay, that doesn't give me confidence. Mike Evans banged up playing through it, though. Probably not going to get his 1,000 yards, Bloom, which is sad because it's been, 6 years in a row, what have you. Okay, Gronkowski, we're looking at him to continue doing those things. Ronald Jones, help out if you get another one of those big games. That's fine. Maybe it's Leonard Fournette as a what the heck flex. But either way, this is front seven, ferocious pass rush against a quarterback that, maybe has some limitations. Tommy with some as well. And the limitations of those wide receivers make me a little nervous about picking the Buccaneers this week, Bloom. Let's break it down for fantasy GMs out there.
Yeah, so you think about it like a chess game, right? Like you're going to do these trades that can set up more advantageous situations for you. The trade here is Ramsey for Evans. And, Evans could still work out. I'm not going to go crazy and say, bench Mike Evans for Jakeem Grant or something like that, because all it takes is one play. And Adam Evans is healthy now. And hopefully Bruce Arians and company say, well, we don't necessarily want Mike Evans to be canceled out by Jalen Ramsey on every single snap. But obviously that sets up Chris Godwin and it sets up Antonio Brown as very good plays, especially in PPR leagues. And with Antonio Brown, by the way, he's on suspension watch. We'll see. The NFL has issued their "we're looking into it" report about throwing his bike at a security guard stand, something like that. I don't know. So, it's Antonio Brown. You got Brady. Like you said, it's Aaron Donald. And by the way, Leonard Floyd. And the Rams aren't fearing anybody. They went and played Russell Wilson last week, and they made him look like Seneca Wallace. So they're not fearing this Brady passing game that was going to hang 50 plus if they had settled for short field goal last week. They're going to come with Aaron Donald. They're going to come with Leonard Floyd. And they trust the players they have at the back end of that defense. And, this is something that we're not even really talking about the Marcus Peters trade anymore because Troy Hill is good, because Darius Williams is good, because they're developing players in their secondary. Maybe this is Ronald Jones showcase game. Is this a game where you use Ronald Jones to establish the run and you have his threat now of those long plays? So this is kind of like the Nyheim Hines question, where does rational coaching dictate that you're going to go back to the player who was one of your most outstanding players on offense? Or do we go back to this, what are we going to get this week, mystery box? I do think we're going to get enough Rob Gronkowski to like playing him in this one. And I just think this is going to be a game just like that we were describing with the Raiders and the Chiefs. It could have wild swings. This game could have like 21-point swings. This game could have sections where it looks like the Rams have figured out the Bucks, or the Bucks have figured out the Rams, and then individual plays swing it back. And this is why we love it. Like last week was one of the ultimate satisfactions of seeing that DeAndre Hopkins Hail Mary, if only because we see what is it? Robert Griffin III, no pressure, no diamonds. The pressure of the NFL season is creating diamonds of games and performances. And we're just lucky that fantasy football and our community gives us the opportunity to pay so much attention to it, because it pays off.
It does pay off in a big, big way. And Bloom, this Monday night game could be like garbage for 3 quarters, and then both
Right.
teams score 24 points in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
Like it could be that sort of game, or it could just be back and forth the entire game. So we're in for it. We're in for it. And we're up for it to talk about our ever popular What the Heck Flex. You look over your lineup and you just need some punch. So in week 11, who are some of those What the Heck Flexes, Bloom, this week? I've got guys like, well, there's Rex Burkhead as a What the Heck Flex. You talked about Jamal Williams. I echo those sentiments about Jamal Williams against the Colts being a What the Heck Flex this week. J.K. Dobbins, I wish it was more, but he's a What the Heck Flex level play. There's Alexander Madison. He is a What the Heck Flex. I'm going to throw in Devontae Booker. There you go, Devontae. He's continuing his What the Heck Flex levels. To the wide receiver position we go, and well, I'm going to watch to see what Carson Wentz can do. So that means Jalen Reagor is more of a What the Heck Flex. Michael Pittman, What the Heck Flex with upside. So we'll keep an eye on that. Nelson Aguilar, What the Heck Flex in that one as well. There's Josh Reynolds, who we talked about. KJ Hamler, who we talked about as well. All What the Heck Flex level players. So Bloom, if you look over your lineups, you just need some punch. Who are some of your week 11 What the Heck Flexes?
And I think that I'm not going to necessarily waste a lot of time. You know, guys like Damian Harris, Giovanni Bernard, Kalen Ballage, Mike Davis, Salvin Ahmed, these guys that have come on. Beneath that, though, is it okay if I call Jonathan Taylor What the Heck Flex this week, Cease? It's acknowledging the perception of him has dropped, but at the same time, the potential because of this matchup is very good. Michael P. Ryan, you know, maybe he can have a big debut. Latavius Murray in that backup running back vein, and maybe without Drew Brees, you retrench and you try to have like 40 rush attempts against Atlanta. Malcolm Brown, I talked about, he should lead the Rams running backs in snaps easily. Carlos Hyde, we're not going to see Chris Carson tonight. Carlos Hyde had a nice touchdown run, and Arizona was Chase Edmonds, who really ruled the fourth quarter and overtime of that last game. So you like him. A wide receiver, Josh Reynolds, you mentioned. Brashad Perryman, you mentioned. KJ Hamler, you mentioned. Henry Ruggs, we talked about. Willie Snead. And you see, she actually brought it up very well. Like, why I should have given Willie Snead some more love on the waiver wire this week against Tennessee's bend but don't break zone defense. That sounds like a Willie Snead game. And Cam Sims. Cease. We've talked about so many Alabama receivers in the last few years. First time we really get to talk about Cam Sims, a tall, long receiver. He's been playing well. He's been playing well as a blocker. He's developing and really trying to stake his claim to a long-term starting job. We talk about Washington's still in the playoff hunt, but also for each one of these players, there's so much at stake for them when they're still on their rookie contracts and trying to establish themselves. That's Cam Sims, and that's the Cincinnati pass defense, who really couldn't stop anybody for the Steelers last week. So maybe this is a Cam Sims breakout game, and KGB coming in there with David Moore. That's another good one with Tyler Lockett a little banged up. So all those seeing our friends from the fellowship.
That's right. We'll be back tonight for what should be a thriller, to be sure. So be anxious for that. It's our Thursday night live show of the Audible. We certainly appreciate everyone for listening and for helping us grow the YouTube channel. Hey, you support the show? Check out footballguys.com. Footballguys.com, where you can get all your greatest fantasy football information. And, of course, our free daily newsletter, which is written by Sigmund and myself and Joe Bryant as we go through the top stories of the day. Listen, you have a life. We don't. So let us send you all the information with our opinions. That is the Football Guys free daily newsletter, available at footballguys.com. So do all those YouTube things, like, comment, share, subscribe, ring the notification bell so that you never miss a vid, and check us out on Thursday night. Tonight, coming up 10 p.m. Eastern time. He's Sigmund Bloom. Follow him on Twitter at Sigmund Bloom. The show is at the Audible. I'm at Cecil Lammey saying thank you. As always, stay tuned and forever stay frosty.